bring Darlington back. Hi. It's been another minute since I did a monthly reading wrap-up. I did one in February, and I skipped March because I only read 2 books, and one of them was Ninth House, which I've talked about so many times before, and then the other one was Hotel World, and I thought it was very interesting to talk about, so I did a short series on that. And then in April I read 4 books, so it was a pretty good reading month. It had been a while since I properly read, had a 4-book reading month. So I'm going to talk about them today. 2 of them are physical books, and 2 of them were EPUBs. So the first book I read in April was Sirens and Muses. Well, I actually read it in March, but I finished it in April, and this was for a book club on Discord hosted by @Latula on Instagram. I gave this book 3 stars. It followed 4 different people throughout different points of their lives, and these 4 people are all artists. The main protagonist was a transfer student who was kind of figuring out what she wanted to do with her career, I guess, because her mother had kind of foregone that moving to New York and being an artist and making it big kind of thing. Instead, she stayed in Louisiana and taught art at a high school, I think. And she is very highly regarded among her community, and obviously she did that to be able to raise Louisa, the protagonist. So she's kind of caught between what do I want, a quiet life like that, or do I want to go and make it big in New York City? And the second protagonist was I finished reading this a month ago, so I don't remember the 2 women's names. But this other woman, oh my god, what is her name? Oh, it was Karina. Okay, I'm not gonna go through all of the characters because I don't know, I felt like at times this book was good, and at other times I just didn't really like it that much. It didn't make me want to keep reading to see what would happen. But basically they're all trying to figure out the question what they would sacrifice for their art, or I don't know. But I particularly liked the POV of Robert, who is this middle-aged man who had a very successful beginning of his career. He had a painting of his dying best friend that did really well and became sort of a very political piece of art, because it was about the AIDS movement, because his friend had AIDS. Even though that was not what he really intended, he just wanted to commemorate his friend. And then now he's sort of feeling like he's really irrelevant in the art scene, and he wants to get back into it. And I actually really liked his POV because he was just figuring things out and trying things. He had a residency at a art school, and then that didn't work out. And then he, by chance, got into tutoring this kid, and that was just really nice to see. Like, he was surprised how much he liked it. I guess I would say if you're artistically inclined, you would like Sirens and Muses. And there is a sapphic romance in it. The other character was Preston, he was an a-hole, and I didn't like him. So, that was Sirens and Muses. And then I also finished reading Hellbent in pretty much the beginning of April. This was a long-awaited book. I read Ninth House for the first time last year, and it was just a book that I really loved so much. I loved all the magical realism elements of it, and just the darkness, and the themes surrounding it. So this is the sequel to Ninth House, and I love how huge this book is. Like, it's just so fun. I didn't take any notes while reading this, though, because it was just pure escapism. I gave this 5 stars because that's how my rating system works. How well did this allow me to escape my reality? That's it. I know some people were kind of disappointed by this book because they just didn't like some aspects of it, but I really did, because, well, I'm just gonna try and summarize without spoiling anything, to make sure. I'm reading the back of this to see what it says. But if you haven't read Ninth House, maybe you should just skip this part, maybe, if you want to read Ninth House and Hellbent. But basically, Alex and Dawes, are going to hell to bring Darlington back. And there was this very spicy part in the very beginning. No, not very beginning, but just sooner than I expected. That was very unexpected, but so funny, and I love Leigh Bardugo for doing that. There are some wild discoveries in here, and the stakes were very high. I loved seeing it all unfold. And also, one part I really enjoyed about this book was that at one point you get to really delve into the side characters more, like Dawes and Turner and another character that I won't say who it is to not spoil anything, but I really like that about it. And when I was watching the Book Leo's video on Hellbent, she was saying Leigh Bardugo's strength is creating these deep layered characters, but her weakness is probably that she can't do it when she's only in one character's head. In this case, it's always Alex. So then in the part where you get to see inside the other characters' heads, that was when it really opened them up, and the characters just bloomed off the page, and I really liked that about it. But in regards to Darlingstern, we need more content. We have been starved, and apparently Leigh Bardugo said this is going to be a trilogy, so there's only going to be one book left. So she better give us so much more, because up until now we've been sustained on crumbs, literal crumbs. So by the way, last year I read a really good, well-developed fanfic on AO3 that was, I think, literally 30,000 words, or maybe even longer. It was a full novel that was really well done. But if you have any suggestions, please let me know down below, because I feel like this fandom, even though Leigh Bardugo does have a big fandom, I feel like this one is quite small. So there was really only that one that I've read so far that's like just amazing. Next, let's talk about Big Swiss. Big Swiss was bizarre. I gave it 4 stars. I had so much fun reading it. It was one of the most bizarre books I have read. Similar to, okay, if you liked The Pisces by Melissa Broder and Bunny by Mona Awad, and the character Eleanor from Cleopatra and Frankenstein, you will probably like Big Swiss. This is just galactic brain energy from the protagonist, Greta, and her housemate. I did do a reading vlog on this and talked a lot about it with my reading notes, which I still have. So if you want to know more, you should go watch that vlog. But basically it follows a transcriptionist called Greta, who is in her mid-40s, who lives in this small town called Hudson in New York. And she lives in this old Dutch farmhouse with her housemate that's literally falling apart, and there's literally a beehive in the middle of the house because her housemate loved it and just wanted it there. And I feel like the house really symbolizes Greta's mental state, because it kind of goes into her backstory a little bit, which I won't get into right now. But basically she was engaged to someone for 10 years that really made her feel like she was having a second childhood, or actually a first childhood, because she didn't really have a childhood. But it just made her feel like way too comfortable. So she eventually left, and she said that's why she lives the way she does now, because she let her fiance take care of everything. And this is just some the rotting girl concept. I love it. I guess if you liked Paradise Rot, you will like this too, maybe. But the therapist that she transcribes for is so bizarre. The whole time I was just like, he had reinvented himself as Ohm. Like, if that doesn't tell you what kind of character he's gonna be, then I don't know what will, because he was like this pseudo therapist person. So the book is called Big Swiss because one of Ohm's clients is this tall Swiss woman, and Greta really takes a liking to her, and then she accidentally meets her in real life, and they start having this relationship. I feel like Greta is just this no-filter character. You're in her head, she goes on all these tangents, and she has the weirdest thoughts. So if you like that kind of book, I think you would like Big Swiss. But please make sure to check the trigger warnings for this. And then lastly, I read The Metamorphosis by Kafka. Loved. Slay. I gave this 3 stars. If you didn't know, The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka follows Gregor Samsa, who is stuck in this like very dreary job that he hates but has to do because of his family's financial situation. But one day he wakes up and finds himself changed into a monstrous vermin. It says, like, just a bug. It doesn't have to be like a specific kind of bug. And also the end of this book does have critical essays saying that it should not be interpreted as like he actually turned into this huge bug. It's just a state, a metaphor. So keep that in mind when you read it. And then the whole story, which is very short actually, it's only 50 pages long, just follows his family being cruel to him. Like his family not seeing him as himself anymore, just seeing this disgusting, huge bug. It's a very interesting story because it doesn't really have like a usual exposition. As one of the critics said, the climax of the story is the first sentence, like the beginning, and then it all goes down from there. It's sort of an examination of Kafka's own family life and how he felt about that. If this has been on your TBR for a long time, this is your sign to read it because it's just a classic that you have to read, and it's Kafka. So that is all for my April reading wrap up. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you added some of these books to your TBR. And if you have any book recs for me, I'd love to hear them in the comments. Or bookish video suggestions. I'd love to hear them too. That's all for today, and I will see you next time.